Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to The Elder Scrolls Online. My name is Camel, and today we're going to take a look and dig through the recent Elder Scrolls Online reveal trailer for the upcoming year-long events and content called The Gates of Oblivion. Now, if you haven't already watched the teaser trailer for it, you can find the link to that video above in the cards. I suggest you watch that first at your own leisure because we're going to be, of course, analyzing this video and pausing it a lot. So let's see what we can find, and then see if what we found connects with things that we already knew due to data mining. So firstly, let's look at the characters in this video. This Argonian sleeping with two one-handed swords next to him seems to have a blindfold on, or a bandage over one eye. It kind of looks like the Sightless Master Blindfold, which is a cosmetic in-game that you can actually have on your character. But what is curious about this item in-game is the Sightless Master Blindfold can be worn by Bretons, Redguards, Orcs, Dark Elves, Nords, High Elves, Wood Elves, and Imperial. It cannot be worn by Khajiit or Argonians, so this bloke here that we see in the teaser is special apparently, or he is simply sleeping with an Elder Scrolls equivalent of an eye mask on. I had a funny thought that he could in fact be a Moth priest Argonian. I've never heard of such a thing, but I've also never heard of anything to suggest that it's not possible. Now, I did go through the entire catalogue of notable Argonian NPCs that can be found in the Elder Scrolls Online, and I could not find any currently existing Argonians that matched the look of this character that we see sleeping here. Maybe you have some ideas on who this could be. And before we move on from this dude, some speculate that ESO is due for a new class this year, and this character, dual-wield swords, blindfold, might just be an aesthetic foundation for, say, a monk class, but that is of course pure speculation. Now, the female wood elf that we see sleeping and having nightmares as the book in her hand morphs is an already existing character called Eveli Sharp-Arrow, whom we engage with during the Hrothgar DLC. Now, as far as I remember and as far as I can find, she is an adventurer and has no history with visions and, farsight and things of that nature, the kind of things she seems to be having in this teaser trailer here. In her dream or vision, she finds herself face to back with this hulking red monstrosity, who is of course Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Prince of Destruction, Change, Revolution, Energy, and Ambition. He is, of course, famous for being the primary antagonist in 1997's An Elder Scrolls Legend Battlespire, a game in which we actually get to speak to an ideal master, which you can check out in the video above if such things interest you, and they should. But I'm sure most of you know Mehrunes Dagon better as the primary antagonist in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, as he is the dude that is responsible for opening up all of the Oblivion gates. So it was only natural that he'd be back for a DLC or chapter called The Gates of Oblivion. Now, just quickly before we move on from the characters, at first viewing my interest was stolen by Eveli Sharp-Arrow's eyes, with her rather alien-looking cross-shaped pupils, a genetic feature I have not observed before in the Elder Scrolls, making me think that this eye shape had something to do with her being very special. However, I jumped in-game and went to the character creation menu, and it turns out that all Bosmer actually have eyes shaped like this. Naturally, the darker the eye color, the harder it is to see the pupil as it contrasts less. But as we can see here, all Bosmers have this cross-shaped eye, at least in the Elder Scrolls Online. And while we're talking about her eyes, a detail that means nothing but is cool nonetheless is when she wakes up from her vision or dream to the now glowing book in front of her that we'll get onto in a second. In the reflection of her eye, we can actually see the glowing Oht rune reflected in her pupil. It's warped and flat because the book is lying flat next to her, but that's a cool detail nonetheless. So you may have noticed that the book that Eveli Sharp-Arrow is holding gains a blazon Daedric rune on the front cover throughout the teaser trailer. Now, while you might know it as the Oblivion symbol, it's actually a letter in the Daedric alphabet called Oht, and when translated to English, it is simply the letter that we know as O, which is of course appropriate for representing Oblivion. Now, while you may be thinking that this book is some kind of conjuration term, no, This is in fact a Daedric artifact called the Mysterium Xarxes, belonging to, of course, Mehrunes Dagon, the big daddy we saw a second ago. Now we do come across this book in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, where we can see it is the same color, with the same sigil on the front. And as we're dealing with Oblivion Gates and Mehrunes Dagon, and the Mysterium Xarxes being an artifact of Mehrunes Dagon and being partially responsible for the Oblivion crisis in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion because it gave Mankar Cameron the knowledge and means to start the Oblivion crisis, well, with all that in mind, there is no doubt that this here book is in fact the Mysterium Xarxes. It's probably exactly what is giving Eveli Sharp-Arrow these visions of the Deadlands and Mehrunes Dagon. Now, let's talk about the environments that we see here. Firstly, let's talk about what is clearly Blackmarsh. Now, I'm not too sure why we see Blackmarsh in this trailer. Naturally, you would suspect that this means that we'll be heading to Blackmarsh given that it's on screen for a fair chunk of the teaser. But as you'll see in a minute and throughout the rest of this video, I am certain that this Gates of Oblivion content for ESO will be set in Cyrodiil. So perhaps the starting quests are in Blackmarsh or something. Maybe the Argonian in this trailer found the book in that very cave and now is traveling with Eveli Sharp-Arrow, who has somehow awoken the Mysterium Xarxes. I don't know, we'll find out. But what I do know is that all of the evidence for things and hints and clues, both in this teaser trailer and things that have been data mined in-game, nothing actually points towards Blackmarsh. So Blackmarsh isn't on the radar at all, and I don't really know why it's in this teaser trailer. Anyway, what we do know is that where we see Mehrunes Dagon is an area called the Deadlands. This is Mehrunes Dagon's Plane of Oblivion, the Plane of Oblivion that belongs to him. The same way the Shivering Isles belongs to Sheogorath, or that Cold Harbor belongs to Moloch Baal, the Deadlands belongs to Mehrunes Dagon. It is the same place that we saw in the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, and what most players would simply refer to just as Oblivion. Because when you go through an Oblivion gate in the Elder Scrolls 4, the Deadlands is where you end up. Mehrunes Dagon was responsible for those Oblivion gates, therefore when you go through them, you end up in his crib. And of course, given the name of this next chapter in the Elder Scrolls Online, the Gates of Oblivion, I'm going to imagine that there are going to be a bunch of gates to Oblivion and we'll end up in the Deadlands once again. Moving on from the Deadlands, let's talk about this opening shot, where it shows a valley with a river at its center, leading off into the distance with a city in the background on the far, far horizon. Now initially, I thought this shot was here on the map of Cyrodiil, looking south down the lower Niben towards the city of Leyawiin. Now I went into the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion and tried to mimic the shot, looking south at Leyawiin, and as you can see, it lines up pretty much perfectly with what we see here in the teaser trailer. And if we zoom in on the city in both shots, they line up pretty well, keeping in mind that of course specific things like which way a river's turning, how many trees are on one hill, how tall a hill is, how many turrets are on a city wall, all these kind of finer details do change between games. So while you could pick tiny holes in it, when you look at it as a whole just at face value you go, damn, that looks pretty similar. So what we see here could definitely be Leyawiin, which might also explain why we see Blackmarsh in the teaser trailer, as Blackmarsh is right down here next to where the camera would be looking, next to Leyawiin. But here are some curious things. In the Elder Scrolls Online, at the end of the Elsewhere chapter, Skyrim was hinted as the next location that the main NPCs would be traveling to, which was correct, as all of 2020's content was set in Skyrim or Skyrim related. Now, with that in mind, at the end of the Markarth DLC, the final piece of content for 2020 with all the Skyrim related stuff, Lyris Titanborn says, "Where will we go? Somewhere far away, maybe back to Skingrad." Now this is interesting, as Skingrad is already on my mind as a possibility for the Gates of Oblivion location, as Skingrad has actually been data mined in ESO, and beyond that it's actually been visited by some players who managed to break through the barriers of the map, revealing of course some plan to bring Skingrad into the game soon. This got me thinking, what if this shot in the trailer is actually not looking south down towards Leyawiin from the Niben Bay, but instead if it's looking northeast up the Strid River towards Skingrad? Well, again, I went into the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion and tried to match the shots, and as you can see, the camera heading northeast up the Strid River towards Skingrad matches just about as perfectly as heading south towards Leyawiin did. And again, if we zoom in on the cities, everything lines up pretty much perfectly. Again, sure, you can pick it apart and be like, oh, there's a missing window on that tower or whatever, but again, at face value, yeah, this looks really, really similar. Now this makes me think that we could very well be heading to the Colovian Estates, which is the general region of Western Cyrodiil. With that in mind, at the end of the Hrothgar DLC, Eveli Sharp-Arrow says that she'll be heading back to Valenwood. Now if this shot is looking up towards Skingrad, as I suspect it is, then that means that this Argonian and Eveli are right at the base of the Strid River, which separates Cyrodiil and Valenwood, the very place where Eveli was residing. So this city in the background, being Skingrad, also makes sense. And annoyingly, just like Leyawiin, it perfectly matches with the city in the teaser. Now I say it's annoying because we can't tell which one it is, as they both happen to look pretty much identical from a distance when being viewed at a distance with a river. Now naturally, I did jump into ESO and try to get a better look at this river and what we can see upstream, but sadly the walls and barriers just made it impossible, and if I swim into the middle of the river I get killed by slaughterfish. Now, if you are not convinced that this chapter will take place in Cyrodiil because we have all of that Blackmarsh footage in the teaser trailer, that's fair enough, but you'll probably change your mind after this. Firstly, we see a city in Cyrodiil, whether it be Skingrad or Leyawiin. Secondly, 2021, this year, will be the 15th anniversary of the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion. Now, much like how the Morrowind chapter was released in 2017, which was the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind's 15-year anniversary, and of course, when we think of Oblivion Gates and Mehrunes Dagon invading Tamriel, we instantly think of the Elder Scrolls for Oblivion, which of course was set in Cyrodiil, and the plot I just mentioned is the entire main plot of that game. So of course, where do we go for Oblivion's 15th year anniversary? We go back to the same place and experience the same stuff. Well, the same themes anyway. I'm sure it'd be fun and fresh, while still hitting that soft spot of nostalgia. Anyway, furthering the Cyrodiil evidence, the center of Cyrodiil in ESO is a giant battleground, and we have been to the Gold Coast in the Dark Brotherhood DLC, which leaves the entire Colovian Estates in Western Cyrodiil and the entire eastern side of Cyrodiil as well. These areas have not been explored in-game yet. And as we can see on the map, there isn't much unexplored room left on Tamriel in the Elder Scrolls Online. So if there is ever a time to cover Cyrodiil in ESO, it is of course on the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion's 15th anniversary and with a chapter called The Gates of Oblivion. And lastly, there have been a number of data mined assets that scream Imperial. Imperials, of course, being the native race of Cyrodiil. Now, some of the things found include the aforementioned city of Skingrad, which is actually found in-game, along with the models for Mehrunes Dagon and his Harbinger. There was a racial motif style found for the Ancestral Imperial set. The designs and themes for the crown crates released on December 10th look as Imperial as it comes, even including the red diamond motif in the corners. And 2 new upcoming antiquities were also found, those being the display red diamond, the symbol of the Empire, and the miniature white gold tower of the Imperial city. So it seems even more evident that something big for Cyrodiil is building, and when I say it seems evident, what I mean is, it's pretty obvious. Now with all of that in mind, given that last year in 2020 with all of Greymoor's chapter stuff all set in Skyrim, we went to Blackreach, we went to Western Skyrim, and we went to the Reach. So that's 1 year, 1 theme, which was Skyrim, and we got 3 pretty big locations. So I would not be surprised at all if we covered all of the remainder of Cyrodiil this year in 2021, that being both Western Cyrodiil and Eastern Cyrodiil. Of course, that is not confirmed and pure speculation, but if we look at the patterns of what they did last year, it would make sense if they did the same thing this year. Now, if anyone with any power in regards to the Elder Scrolls Online is watching this, I have one request, one simple, lore vital request. If you've ever played Morrowind or watched my Easter egg video for it, you'll remember this guy, Tahiel. Now the hat he is wearing is called the Colovian Fur Helm. It comes from Colovia, the western section of Cyrodiil. Now in the Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion, the lore, in my opinion, was broken, as this hat never made an appearance despite the entirety of Colovia being playable. So, my one request is that they bring the Colovian Fur Helmet back. And while the Elder Scrolls Online does have the Colovian Fur Hood, no, I want the proper, foot-tall yellow hat, the Colovian Fur Helm. Such a loss to the lore. Cannot be taken again, my heart cannot take it. Even the first time we meet Maik the Liar, the first time he ever appeared in the Elder Scrolls series, which was in Morrowind, he was wearing it, he was wearing the Colovian Fur Helm. It's an important piece of the Elder Scrolls lore and its history, and if we're going to be going to the place that the hat came from, I better see that damned yellow hat. Anyway, enough goosing around. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on all of this, and of course, I'd love to hear your theories about this teaser trailer, where you think the gates of Oblivion will be set, and if you noticed any more details that I may have missed. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Camel, and I will see you very shortly in the next video. I'll see you there soon.